Hello and welcome back to this channel and this series where I talk about random things. My name is Muhammad and today we are talking about a uprising that was very influential to Irish history, known as the Easter Rising. Now, the Easter Rising or the Easter Rebellion was an armed insurrection in Ireland during the Easter week in April 1916. The rising was launched by Irish Republicans against the British rule in Ireland with the aim of establishing an independent Irish Republic. And this happened while the United Kingdom was at war with Germany during the First World War. Now, I don't know if I could talk about like the whole thing, so I've decided to split this into two parts. So, firstly, we're going to talk about the background of this whole thing. So, there were there the Easter Rising wasn't the first, and certainly wasn't the last. There were many rebellions that had inspired the ideas of freedom before. Notably, one during the uprising, notably an Irish rebellion in like 1789, I think, perhaps. Rebellion of 1798. Now, during the 1800s, the Acts of Union Kingdom of Great united Great Britain and the Kingdom of Ireland into the United Kingdom, which abolished the Irish Parliament and in favor of giving the representation in British Parliament to the giving Irish representation in British Parliament. Though Irish nationalists had opposed the union since there was apparently a lack of representation for the Irish, as well as how the British handled the Irish populace, with the particularly with the Great Famine and stuff, with the Irish famine. So there was this movement called the Irish Home Rule Movement, which sought to achieve self government for Ireland within the United Kingdom, meaning that it's still part of Britain, it's just ruling on its own. However, so the first Home Rule Bill was introduced to British Parliament, but it was defeated. Second Home Rule Bill, it was passed through by the House of Commons, but rejected by the House of Lords. And then the third Home Rule Bill was introduced by British Liberal Prime Minister H. Asquith in 1912. Irish Unionists up in Northern Ireland, who were overwhelmingly Protestant, which is a type of Christian, opposed it. They didn't want to be ruled by Catholic Irish, by a Catholic dominated Irish government. So they formed the Ulster Volunteers, which the Ulster Volunteers, which uh, which armed themselves in the events that they had to resist home rule by force. So, in response to this, the Republicans, I think, formed the Irish Volunteers, who also had armed themselves. The Irish Volunteers were also dominated by this other Irish group who called themselves the Irish Republican Brotherhood, who was the Irish Volunteers were dominated by the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and another militant group, known as the Irish Citizen Army, was formed by trade unionists as a result of the Dublin lockout, which is a different event. I think it involved workers. Now, the third Home Rule Bill was going to be enacted, but due to the outbreak of the First World War, resulted in its implementation being postponed for the war's duration. So, and at the time, it was widely believed that the war would not, last more than a few months, as everybody usually thinks at the time. So, some parts of the Irish Volunteers split off, and they became known as the National Volunteers, who ended up enlisting in the British Army. However, some objected and continued to retain the name National Volunteers due to their separatist principle. Well, they didn't retain the name for that, but they did so. The volunteers, no. Okay. So, due to the war, uh, England's trouble was considered Ireland's opportunity. So, the Republican Brotherhood decided that they were going to do an uprising before the war ends, and they were going to do it with the help of Germans, with the help of Germany, since you know, since the obvious Britain was at war with Germany, and uh, Germany was more than willing to do whatever to give Britain some hurt. However, there was a smaller separate group within the Irish Republican Brotherhood that called itself the Military Council, which independently planned planned the rising because there were many that were against the idea of like doing the rising immediately, and were saying that right now was not the time. So the military council did all their plan independently did all their plans in secret, while to make sure that it stays hidden from both the British officials as well as the Irish Republican Brotherhood, so that their own people wouldn't stop them from doing the rising. Shortly after the outbreak of World War I, Roger Casement, who was Ireland's diplomat to Germany, uh, went over to Germany to discuss with them on bringing weapons and recruiting Irish prisoners of war, and then Germany sending some forces, or at least advisors, over to Ireland to help them with the war effort against Britain. Now, Roger Casement had visited prison camps that had Irish prisoners of war. He had tried to recruit them, and he's managed to recruit like 60 of them. However, most didn't want any part of it, saying that it was said that he was chased out of the camps by the prisoners. Meanwhile, Ireland also had representatives in America working to secure what, working with Irish Americans to secure more weapons for the Irish back home. These Irish Americans were always helping out the Irish back home from America. One such uh, one such group that did so was a group known as the Fenian Brotherhood. That was a while ago. Back in Ireland, the head of the Irish Citizen Army, known as James Connolly, threatened to start his own rebellion if the other parties, planning the rising were to fail to act. So the military council had to come over to him and asked him to join them in their plan in doing the rising, which he agreed to. Uh, in New York City, 1915, the death of an old Fenian leader known as Jeremiah O'Donovan Rosa. Uh, he died. His body was sent to Ireland for burial in Glasnevin Cemetery with the volunteers in charge of the arrangement. There were huge crowds lined the route and gathered at the graveside. With Pierce there, he's one of Patrick Pierce is one of the leaders of the volunteers. He's wearing he wore the uniform of the Irish Volunteers, and he made a dramatic funeral oration, which was a rallying call to the Republicans, ending with the words, "Ireland unfree shall never be at peace." And on the 9th of April, the German Navy dispatched the SS Libau as the Norwegian ship Aud to deliver weapons. At this time, Casement also left for Ireland aboard the German submarine U-19 with hopes of, you know, postponing of postponing the rising due to the fact that Germany wasn't really going to be due to his disappointing results in Germany. So he was hoping to postpone the rising. The SS Libau was loaded with 20,000 rifles, 1 million rounds of ammunition and explosives, as well as 10 machine guns. Not a lot for the volunteers. On Wednesday, 19 April, Alderman Tom Kelly, a Sinn Féin member of Dublin Corporation, read on a newspaper. There was a newspaper that was given to that went out detailing how the British plan to arrest people of the physical to arrest several people of like the Irish Volunteers, Sinn Féin, and all that. This document was, however, it was forged by the military council to persuade the volunteers to be more radical. And you know, now the military council had agreed that they were going to do the Easter Rising by Easter Sunday. However, MacNeil caught wind of it last minute, and he issued a counter order with at saying canceling all actions ongoing the all any sort of actions for Sunday for the Irish Volunteers, which caused a lot of confusion among the ranks. Now, ESS Libau uh, at the docks arrived too early, however, and they arrived like 2 days earlier than the Irish Volunteers were expecting. Thus, there was no one really there to meet them, and English destroyers the found the ship. The SS Libau managed to convince the British that it was a Norwegian ship. However, before it could like get to shore, the due to fear of getting searched and considering all the weapons they have on board, the captain of the ship ordered that the ship be destroyed, and the ship sank along with all of the weapons. That's not all. Uh, Casement managed to also reach Ireland by this, and well, he had the flu, and he was arrested by like British officials. So yeah, at due to the fact that the arms shipment was destroyed, MacNeil issued I probably should have explained. McNeil is one of the top leaders of the Irish Volunteers. He issued a countermand canceling all actions for Sunday again. There was going to be no rising for the Sunday. Unbeknownst to the Irish Volunteers, the British Naval Intelligence was pretty much aware of everything. They they were aware of the arms shipment, of Casement's return, and the date for the Easter Rising through the radio messages between Germany and its embassy in the United States, which were intercepted by the Royal Navy and deciphered in some place called Room 40. Yeah, the British Naval Intelligence were aware of what was going on, and they were just the British themselves were just a bit too slow acting upon it, because information was passed to the Undersecretary of Ireland, Sir Matthew Nathan, on 17th April, and without revealing its source, Nathan was doubtful about its accuracy. So, when news reached Dublin of the capture of the SS Libau and the arrest of Casement, Nathan conferred with Lord Lieutenant Lord Winborne and proposed to raid Liberty Hall, which is the headquarters of the Citizen Army, and volunteer properties of Father Matthew Park and at Kimmage. But Winborne insisted on wholesale arrest of the leaders. It was decided to postpone action until after Easter Monday. Uh, yeah. On the morning of Easter Sunday, 23rd of April, the military council met at Liberty Hall to discuss what to do in light of McNeil's countermanding order. And they met, they discussed, and decided that they were going to move the date of the Easter Rising to Easter Monday. So the weekend was spent preparing rations, making munitions, and bombs as messengers spread the order. And I think that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to do part two tomorrow. So, yeah, if you're still watching this video, thanks. Goodbye.